Hey, good morning, YouTube. Well, it's Saturday morning. It's time to do another Michael at Sailors with Cars interview. Today we've got Mike Taylor bringing over his Apache truck. He'll be here in a little bit. We'll set up. As you can see, we've got the new banner that came in the mail the other day. I'm liking that. I've got the lights set up, and pretty much we're ready to go here. I think it'll be a good interview. Mike's a retired captain out of the Navy. He and I served together for about 2 years while I was teaching, but we'll get into that during the interview. Anyhow, looking forward to doing it. Looking forward to having you along with me, and we'll get to it in just a bit. Thanks. Hello, YouTube. Michael at Sailors with Cars, SailorswithCars.com, Sailor with Cars on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's all covered. I appreciate the people that have subscribed. We're up to 45 subscribers. Awesome. We're getting there. If you like the channel, please subscribe, hit the alert button, and share it. This channel is all about military members, active duty, retired, their vehicles, their story. Today we have retired Captain Mike Taylor, and he's brought his beautiful Apache pickup truck. Mike, thanks for coming.
Hey.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, not a problem. So Mike, we're going to jump into it because it is Sailors with Cars, and of course, you're a retired sailor. So let's start with the early years. Where'd you go to school?
Actually, I'm a San Diego native, third generation Navy, surface warfare. My family came to San Diego in 1920 due to my grandfather's low GPA at the Naval Academy.
Nice.
When you came out of the Naval Academy with a low GPA, apparently they sent you to the hinterlands. Back in 1920, post World War I, there was a lot of destroyers that were based here because of a shift to the Pacific. My grandfather ended up living in Point Loma back in 1920.
Nice.
As an ensign in the Navy.
Couldn't have been much there.
No, there was a lot of dirt called Sunset Cliffs. He bought some of the property in Sunset Cliffs, which later turned out to be a pretty good deal for my father.
Not bad. Not bad. Not bad. And you went to school?
The Naval Academy didn't seem to suit me due to my Southern California lifestyle. So, but it just so happened that they started an ROTC. There was a period of time where ROTCs weren't popular in the 70s and 80s, but then they made a resurgence in the mid 80s, and San Diego State established an ROTC program. So I actually walked in as a plank owner. I was one of the first 13 midshipmen.
Really?
At San Diego State.
What year?
That would have been 82, I believe.
82.
Yep.
Okay, nice. And upon graduation of college, commissioned ensign in the Navy.
Yep.
And first duty station?
First duty station was a ship. It was kind of funny. In the late 80s, I walked on a stage with 10 other midshipmen who got commissioned. 9 of them were going to be pilots, and there was one dumb guy that was going to be a SWO. And everybody assumed I had bad vision, or otherwise I'd be a pilot too. You know, that was the kind of the Top Gun era. It was really snazzy to be a pilot. But like I said, I was following in the family footsteps, and I wanted to drive ships. I wanted to see if that was something that would work for me. So I went to an LST, of all things, USS Cayuga. That was recommended to me by the CEO of the ROTC unit, who said, if you want to drive a ship, you should go to an LST. He goes, it's a good sized ship. It's a very small wardroom. He says, you will cut your teeth and you will either thrive or not make it. But if you really want ship handling skills, he said, go to an LST. So maybe not the best advice, but I followed it, and I was assigned to an LST in Long Beach. USS Cayuga, one of the Iroquois nations by namesake, and I did 2 back-to-back deployments in my first at-sea tour.
Wow.
To include one that never ended because Desert Storm broke out while we were in Hong Kong. I remember watching Saddam Hussein invade Kuwait at I think it was Ned Kelly's last stand in Hong Kong, and I said, boy, the guys overseas are screwed. And it happened to be me.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we got a recall notice that night. Everybody went back to the ship. We had a MEU on board. We went to the Persian Gulf, and we didn't leave for 10 months. So
nice.
Yeah, a little bit of a tough deployment.
Yeah, that's a long time to sit there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fast forward a little bit to where I first met you at Surface Warfare Officer School, where you were teaching in the Division Officer School.
That's right.
You were a lieutenant. I was a first class. I was teaching in the engineering section of the school there. I was like you, commissioned to school. Did you decommission there, or did you transfer prior?
I walked out as they were shutting the doors.
Yeah, I stayed. I made chief there, and then left. Must have been early '94 when we shut the doors. And then I left and went from there. So from there, where did you go?
Well, I was on the verge of being a department head. Back then, with an engineering background, you were pretty much, predetermined to be a chief engineer. Chief engineer was one of the toughest department head billets you could get at the time. But I've been told that you either jump in with both feet or you get pushed. Your chance of being successful if you jump in with both feet is much greater. But I wasn't quite, I was a year before my due date for department head school. So I asked the CEO of SWAS, I said, what do I do for a year if I'm going to be a chief engineer? He said, you need to go to Sync Pack Fleet, PEB, and do engineering assessments for a year to kind of hone in your skill set on what a properly managed engineering plant looks like. So I said, okay. He made a phone call. 2 days later, I walked over to 32nd Street and joined the Sync Pack Fleet Propulsion Examination Board as a diesel examiner, but they were actually short a gas turbine examiner, so I kind of cross-trained myself as a gas turbine diesel guy. I had the background from my first tour on Cayuga as an OXO and an MPA. I actually paid my way through college as an automotive machinist, so I was really technically oriented, with motors, gas turbines, just different type of motor.
Sure.
So in 1 year at Sync Pack Fleet Propulsion Examination Board, I did 52 inspections.
It's a lot.
Corresponded to one a year, a ton of travel, but I think that teed me up for a successful execution of back-to-back chief engineer tours. So I think if I had not had that doctorate degree in engineering, it would have been a much tougher career.
That must have been about the end of BEB at that point.
It was. They were getting a little silly at that point. They had an instruction that mandated they get wash towels and mints on their pillows and some goofy stuff like that. So I think they were their own demise. They were under the cognizance of Sync Pack Fleet, so the TICOM couldn't shut them down. They kind of ran amok at that point. There's a whole bunch of 06s in there that were really terrors on the waterfront. And what
I remember.
You remember when they walked on board, everybody was sweating bullets.
Yeah.
But it was a very good, rigorous inspection, and there was a lot of folks, a lot of good, talented, lieutenant commanders on the staff.
So from there, chief engineer back to back, what ships?
First Ching tour was, actually I went to department head school with the full intent of being a diesel chief engineer, and I had orders to Fort McHenry. So, Fort McHenry was in Sasebo at the time. I felt really good with a diesel plant, so my wife and I were geared up to move to Sasebo. So this is how the Navy works. You spend a year getting ready to go to Japan. We actually moved in a Japanese exchange student, so my wife could learn a little bit about Japanese culture. And then the day I graduated from department head school, they ord-modded me. So after a year of getting ready to go to Japan, I instead went to Long Beach Naval Shipyard and I brought Kincaid out of a VLS mod and through the basic phase training cycle.
Wow.
And Kincaid is an early Spruance class,
Yep.
DD 965, LM 2500 plant. Great plant, but rode hard. And the DFC rate, the firing rate, termination rate for chief engineers, when I walked on board was over 50%.
Wow.
So over half those guys were getting fired due to the challenges of managing that early gas turbine plant.
Nice. So you survived that tour, of course.
Yeah, and then the Navy, when you survive a chief engineer tour, the next thing they do is they make you a chief engineer again.
Of course.
I had an intermediate stop at Desron 23. They thought I'd be a good candidate to be an N4. So I was an N4 at Desron 23. I actually went to Oldendorf as the N4 for the squadron and got them through to Shiloh as chief engineer, where I worked for the notorious Steve Bush. And spent 2 years and 2 deployments on Shiloh.
I didn't realize you worked for Captain Bush.
3 times in my career.
Wow, it's like me working for Captain Shaw 3 times in my career.
Yeah.
Nice.
But there's a point at which you obtain their confidence. My CO there was Captain Charles Gowett, who I credit with mentoring me and training me to become a CO. Charles Gallet, so he had ship handling skills that crossed the spectrum from submarines to surface ships. And we, you know, as his XO, he had me in his cabin every night and talking to me about, you know, leadership and ship handling, and he explained absolutely everything he did and why he did it. Really, and what you actually have to do at that point in time is you have to look back, and you have to look back to the people that trained you. The question that always went through my head was, what would Chuck do? You know, and that was Chuck Gallet, CEO of the Oldendorf. And then you make a decision, and you either live or die by those results.
Sure.
So my tour on Ford FFG 54 out of Everett, I thought was pretty successful. I got through the whole thing, but I relied on those people that had trained me, those notable figures, such as Steve Bush and Charles Gallet.
Nice. So speaking of the Ford, if you looked at the Facebook page, you saw the picture that Mike gave me of the truck in the dry dock with the Ford. So that was our first question. Everybody looked at it. Where was that at? In Everett?
But 3 years in Italy, which was a great family adventure, great Navy family adventure. We took both kids, we took the dog, we took the cat. You know, we took everybody, and then we had, you know, fun with cars in Italy because we were stationed in Italy. So I thought I was going to retire from the Navy. I went in there to be the engineering department head, and the way I phrase it is, they made me the CEO of ATG when I wasn't looking. They needed a post-command guy to be the CEO. That was a kind of a decree for the qualification. Nobody really wanted to go there because training wasn't sexy, but it actually turned out to be one of the best jobs of my career. So I didn't really want to do it, but I stepped up to the plate, became the CEO of ATG PAC, and I was the Deputy Commodore for ATG Pacific. And then I think my relationship with the TICOM, which was Adam McCurtis at that point, flourished pretty well. He asked me to stand up surface warfare school, because remember, it went away for a long time, which was moderately criminal in my opinion. But we stood it up again and started training ensigns, and it became so successful that SWAS took over that effort and reinitiated it as SWAS School Comm Basic. So I screened for Major Command. I did my Deputy Commander tour at LCS, which I actually took CTF 33 MFC PAC, which turned out to be a great deal because I put 3 new ship classes into service. The MLP, which I think is now called TESB, the Afloat Forward Staging Base. Sure. And the JHSV, the aluminum catamarans coming out of Austell in Mobile, Alabama. So my last 2 years in the Navy were a lot of shipyards, a lot of new construction, and a lot of test and evaluation of new ship platforms. Okay. So that kind of set me up to stay in ship repair, shipbuilding, which is kind of what I'm doing now in my post-retired life. Sure. And enjoying it very much.
Along with the rest of us.
Yeah, it's a good gig.
It is. So, let's get into the car part. Let's talk about this fine truck. When did you get it? How did you get it?
Great story. I've had this thing forever. I was talking to Vicki on the way over here, and I think I've had this thing for 26 years. In the Union Tribune, I found a 59 Chevy for sale in Ramona. And I called the guy and I said, says, is it still for sale? He said, yeah, nobody's come out here. Nobody wants to drive all the way out here to look at it. So I drove out and I looked at it. And it kind of looked like this. It had been hot rodded a bit. And my first instinct when I saw it was, oh my gosh, that's kind of audacious. And I drove it around, and the guy that was selling it was a retired senior chief, of all things. And he was a machinery repairman. And you don't ever meet, my wife and I were driving to the in-laws, and she said, what do you think? And I said, man, I really like it. And she said, well, buy it, you dummy. So I called Dave Franklin, and I said, Dave, I'll take the car. And he said, good move. There's only 2 years that look like this. And I think Chevy at the time was trying to market pickup trucks to the cowboy rancher. The gentleman rancher, a higher class, a truck where you could get in it with your suit and tie and your bolo and your hat. And you could also use it for, ranch hand stuff, or you could drive around in a real classy pickup. So that's how I got it. And I have been chipping away at this thing for 24 years now, I think.
That's a beautiful shape.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun to drive. It's got an overdrive transmission. It's got a hydraulic roller motor. So it is a 59 Chevy, but it goes down the road like a new car.
Around with Mike, so we'll do that next.
The 59 Chevy Apache. Like I was telling Mike earlier, I kind of bought it on a little bit of a whim, kind of an opportunistic event, found it in the classified ads even before the internet became a thing. So I didn't really know what I was buying. I just knew it was a 59 Chevy and I wanted an old truck. But what I didn't realize is that it had some special features that I sorted out kind of after the fact, such that it's a fleet side, which is not common. It's a short bed, which is not common. And it's a deluxe cab, which is not common. So I kind of hit the trifecta on the desirability. The only other guy I know that's got something like this is, believe it or not, Don Imus. He has something that's almost identical to this. It's a cameo version with a fiberglass bed, but this looks like a cameo. It looks like a short bed deluxe fleet side, and that's what it is. But this is a steel bed.
So that's when they went to that. And the 31, that's designation for half ton?
Yeah, exactly. So 31 was a half ton, 32 was a 3/4, and 33 was a full ton.
Got it.
So it's a half ton, you know, not a very robust truck, but actually back in the early days, I treated it like a truck, and I did some crazy stuff with it. I used to tow a boat with it. I remodeled homes using this. I was routinely at Home Depot filling this thing with lumber and drywall, and you can see it's not really suitable for that anymore because I wanted to capitalize on the rare features and kind of make it a cleaner hot rod. My goal actually was to, you know, put it in car shows and win an award. I always thought that'd be a good bucket list thing. I did that 2 weeks ago.
That's exactly.
Yeah. I got the President's Choice Award at the California Classics.
Nice.
So,
congratulations.
So it's gone from a work truck to more of a show truck.
Is this the original color, the white?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it was white, and I believe it had a red interior. And
yeah, let's take a look at the
you
inside.
look at the door tag there. Actually, the door jambs were red once upon a time. I repainted them, but all the original tags are in the door jamb. You know, the designation plates and the VIN number and all that stuff. It's just really, and the dash was red. So I think this is the original color and configuration. But
that's beautiful.
I just keep chipping away at certain parts of it.
All the gauges work?
Oh yeah, the gauges work like a champ. It's got some really distinctive gauges. I think the funny thing about a 59 Chevy is the most important thing in the whole dashboard is the cigarette lighter, smack in the middle. And the chrome ashtray, and back then this was actually the starter button back then. You had to put the key in and then you press the button because they were separate.
Oh yeah, and as we pointed out in the other truck we did, the dimmer for the bright lights.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
and the massive park and brake lever down there.
Yep.
That you yank on. And
yeah, Mike's was similar to that. His was the stick shift.
Yeah. So it first got renovated back in the 80s, and it had a kind of an 80s look to it. And I've been kind of taking it out of the 80s and into the current decade.
So of course I had screwed up when I posted that on Facebook because I put the Ford in the Ford. Of course, we know it's not a Ford. Look at the bed though. The bed is beautiful. My God.
Yeah, that's red oak, and a buddy and I did that in our garage. It was actually kind of a family project because what I did is I went to Home Depot and I bought red oak, and then I bought these stainless steel strips, and I put the oak in the garage and I sanded it and varnished it. I thought that would be pretty simple, but you know, 3 months later, I'm into my 7th coat of varnish. And then you buff it between coats, wet sand it. I had my wife out there telling me when I made a mistake, but the wood came out perfect. I had the whole bed off the truck, and that's when I kind of remodified the frame. It's got a 4-link suspension on it. It's got a Panhard now.
And of course the exhaust you've got.
Yeah, I ran the exhaust out the sides, which gives it a great sound.
Which we've captured hopefully on the GoPro.
But if I take off from an intersection and you're next to me with the windows down, you are not going to like it. Because it'll put the noise right in your car.
I'm gonna walk around the other
The
side.
pinstriping was done by a guy named Fisk. Back in the early 90s, he used to do pinstriping by hand.
Let's say, is that done by hand?
Yeah, he signed it. It's I kept his autograph on the front of the car. But he used to go to the Chevy dealerships. If you wanted pinstriping as an option, this guy named Fisk would show up. I never actually met him. I hear he's still in San Diego. But that's his signature. And he did all that by hand. He's one of those old school guys.
Awesome. Let me see if I can get a good view of the... Let's talk about the engine.
Yeah. So anyway, it came with a 350 and a turbo 400. I actually have pictures of this at the Carlsbad.
Got the turbo 400?
Turbo 400
transmission.
Yeah, the big heavy duty 3-speed.
Really?
Yeah, and that's a very robust transmission, but it'll drive you batshit, a 3-speed on the freeway. So I've since upgraded the motor to an L31 Vortec, which is essentially a late 90s Tahoe Suburban motor. It's a hydraulic roller motor because I'm getting fed up with flat tappets. And then I put a 700 R4 so I can go down the freeway without shaking my teeth or my kidneys out. So it now goes down the freeway pretty much like a Suburban or a Tahoe, you know, where the RPMs are low and good, you know, freeway cruiser. It does 80 all day long without breaking a sweat. But I kept the old school, you know, hot rod look, even though it's a more modern motor. I love the Edelbrock 1406 because once you get it right, you never have to mess with it. I'm running the original headers on here that I got when I bought the car because I can't figure out what they are and I can't buy new ones. So, you know, they don't really exist for this car, but they were there. So I took them up to Escondido. I had them plated. There's a plating company up there. I tossed out the original steering and went with these U-joints. So all the rag joints and stuff are gone. I tightened up the steering significantly. It actually has a mid-60s front clip, so it is an independent front suspension. You know, a 59 Chevy will change lanes without permission if you let it. But when you put an independent front suspension on it, it actually will behave. My buddy actually built this battery box from scratch, from scrap metal. Creepy.com, a guy named Doug, does some amazing work, and he built that from scratch and painted it
About to say, it's just nicely done.
Yeah.
Its radiator looks pretty damn sexy here.
Yeah, those are champion radiators.
It's no joke, that thing.
Yeah, well, you know, look at this engine compartment. You know, you can sit in here and work on the car.
That's how the one we did, the 57 we did. It's like, wow, you just climb right in there.
Yeah, I thought about, you know, possibly putting a blower on here because it would fit under the hood, but it just runs too well, and I don't want to really mess with it. I mean, I've got it pretty clean and straight. And I, you know, when I stripped the compartment out, I welded up about 1,000 holes in here from every accessory that it had ever had. So I sat in here with a welder, welded up, and then sanded, and then repainted so I could get the engine compartment up to, you know, show quality because that was kind of the goal.
Yeah, it's nice, beautiful.
So, and I love that charcoal gray metallic as an offset. And like I said, my buddy, he's actually does a lot of car customizing out of his house. He lives next to me. He's doing a Porsche restoration for us right now. But if you know, we'll get his website up and running. But
yeah, yes, that'd be great. All right, well, you know what? I want to go for a ride.
Okay,
let's do it.
That's what side pipes do for you.
I love it.
They give you a great sound.
Love it. My old, the only truck I ever owned, I had a '73 Chevy. I had the pipes the same way. They came out in front of the back wheels. Had the old glass packs on there because that's all I could afford. There was no header. Yeah, mine's nice.
Yeah, it's one of the most recent things I did. Every hot rod in the 80s had 15-inch graders on it. Now this thing had 15-inch graders because that was what you got back in the day.
at SailorswithCars.com. So to wrap this up, I want to say we're always looking for people, and I always forget to mix this into the interviews. We're always looking for people to interview. You can go on the YouTube page, Facebook page, send me an email, text me. 619-728-6040 is the phone number. I'll put that up in the video. Get a hold of me. I'll put it down in the comments. Always looking to do it. I like to do them here in the garage just so I can get the lighting set. We've got a nice little course that we drive around when we do the drive around, but you know, I'm flexible. So hit me up and let me know. And yeah, so Mike, thanks for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me.
No, I really appreciate anybody that comes out, spends the time, shares their vehicle with the audience. And this was an awesome ride, awesome truck. Sailors with Cars hat goes to you.
Thank you.
That's my bribe for anybody that comes out and does an interview. That's what you're going to get. You get a hat. Best I could do. So I like the hats. I think they're pretty nice. As we grow the channel, we'll see where that goes.
Yep.
Any closing words from you?
No, this is a great venue. Like I said, it's a great niche. You know, you're capitalizing on sailors and they're interested in cars, which is out there. It's truly out there, and they all have great stories. So I think you're zeroing in on a good network. Like I said, I volunteer my wife, you know, the Navy wife, because she's got a great story too, and she's got a great car.
Well, we're going to get her on camera and do it. So we're going to talk to Vicki about that when we shut the camera down. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. I might have a midweek video coming in. I'm going to start the Hermitage series. That's what I'm going to call my shop. I know you know nothing about it, but I've been working on this for about 10 months now to try to build a shop to move everything down below the house. My wife and I call it the Hermitage, and if you're familiar with history, you'll know what the Hermitage is. If not, we'll educate you as we go along. See you next time.